there's a definite challenge, and I guess it's no different with every generational gap. And it was probably the same as when I, Gen Y or Gen X or the baby boomers with the people coming through the Gen Z do have a different perspective on the work environment. I think the key point is to keep it in proportion and recognise that they are coming into a workplace with a different set of expectations. For many of their opinions, it's very much in terms of their upbringing, because most of the things that they have and their access to things is literally immediate. So it's not a case of going to the library. They can literally go to the internet to get the answers to many things, and so stuff is available on demand. So we do need to recognise that they do have a different learning style. I think there's more of a confidence, which I guess can on times be viewed as an entitlement and a demand for more responsibility. But I guess the challenge that my generation then has is, how do you balance that with the realism, the pragmatism, and I guess the experiential piece of it, to say, how do we get to a real position that is a compromise of the two that gets you to the best possible position? Typical things that we hear, flexibility, I think, is probably the primary word that I hear when I'm talking to our Gen Z people. It's something that they almost demand, so they want to be able to work as they want to, and that's probably driven by many of them. You think many of them will have been through university at the time of COVID, so they very much had to be self-sufficient, had to be individual, and had to go away and do things in their own regard. Now, of course, what they don't necessarily then appreciate is that they are then part of a team that's part of a greater organization or a greater being that needs to get to some outcomes. So I think there's some learning for them to do in terms of that, of their role within a team, creating the bigger piece. So whilst flexibility is great, there's also the responsibility that cuts the other way. And I think that's the piece that I think they acknowledge it. I don't think there's a lack of acknowledgement of responsibility, that they recognise if they want flexibility, there needs to be responsibility. And I think this is where the nub of the issue really comes in. It's down to the organisation. It's not down to Gen Z, and it's not down to older people such as myself. It's down to management and leadership to be really clear in terms of what expectations are, whether they be deadlines, whether it be describing how tasks are carried out, when, in what manner, what the reference particulars might need to be. So I think what needs to happen to bring the ideals, I guess, of Gen Z together with the reality of what commercial organizations need is the responsibility of the culture of the organization, the ability for it to provide feedback, and the real essential is that absolute clarity of what is required.